Hi there, this is Matt with the Why We Horror podcast. This time we are talking about the film Five Nights at Freddy's. For the Why We Horror podcast, we like to deconstruct and analyze our favorite horror movies to discover why we told this story in the first place. A couple of trigger warnings. This film involves, child mutilation and death, and that's fun. My name is Matt, and I'm going to introduce you to my guests here with a fun little question. What is your favorite video game movie? Mine would be Mortal Kombat 1995. Awesome movie, underrated. People are sleeping on it. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
No.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Thank you. Hi, I'm Lillian. Can I cheat and do a video game show, or do you really want a
Sure.
movie? I love The Last of Us Season 1.
Fair enough. What would have been the movie if you.
I tried to find one that I've seen that's not Five Nights
Wow.
at Freddy's or Minecraft or Mario, and there really isn't any. And those were all bad options. So
Fair
Five
enough.
Nights at Freddy's is my answer.
Okay. Who's going next? Jenna, look like?
All right. Yeah. Hi, I'm Jenna. I think my favorite video game movie is the Sonic ones, the more recent ones. Probably the second one. If that's the one with Jim Carrey in it, they kind of all meld together in
I
my
think they
mind.
all Jim Carrey.
Is he in all of? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the second one or whatever one I remember as being the best one.
Fair enough. Right on.
Hello, my name is Alex. The Sonic movies are a very solid answer. Also, they're super funny. I think it would be either between the FNaF movie or the Minecraft movie, because those were like my favorite things as a kid. I think overall, I enjoyed the Five Nights at Freddy's movie more. It was just there was just so much good stuff in there. Maybe it was because it was made by like a smaller studio, and so they could cram more fan stuff in there. But yeah, I loved the Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
Right on. All right. So, like I said, we're going to be discussing the movie Five Nights at Freddy's. This is a film directed by Emma Tammi, written by. Now, this is a lot. The screenplay is written by Scott Cawthon and Seth Cuddeback and Emma Tammi, based on a screen story by Scott Cawthon and Chris Lee Hill and Tyler MacIntyre. Cast is starring Josh Hutcherson, Elizabeth Lail, Piper Rubio, Mary Stuart Masterson, and the immortal Matthew Lillard. Cinematography by Lynn Moncrief, edited by Andrew Wesman and William Paley, with a score by the Newton Brothers. A brief synopsis of this film: it is about a man who is trying to find answers for his brother's disappearance years prior, is hired to look after an abandoned pizza restaurant that is haunted by ghosts of missing children who possess a variety of woodland creatures. Um, this is based on a video game, and until this podcast situation happened, I had never played said video game. So I decided I was going to give it a shot, and it is what I would classify as a constipation solver. It is the constipation cure. If you find yourself bound up at all, like, you will squirt. That I was not prepared for the level of jump scare that hit me as I played with my young child. Um, but that's kind of all I know about Five Nights at Freddy's is from this movie and everything my daughters told me. So I brought a couple of like lore experts, which seems to be everybody at this table here. Uh, I'm going to turn it to you guys. I want a lore dump before we get into the review of this movie. Have at it.
Oh boy.
God.
I feel like that's like asking for like, how would you lore dump about like Lord of the Rings? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's so much to get into.
How much detail?
I honestly know nothing. I know that like this William Afton guy is kind of an a-hole that likes to, like be a child predator, but he doesn't seem to touch him, which is like, I guess, better.
Yeah. Just kills them. you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of weirdly appreciated that it wasn't like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, just
He's
murder.
not Freddy
Okay,
Krueger,
it's like
right?
just
Oh, he's just
murder. Yeah.
he's just trapping their souls in contraptions. That's fine.
Because it's like also
Um,
how far do we go? Because there's a second
I
movie
know.
coming out, and there's like all the lore that I guess maybe we'll stick with the up until the
the
first
lore that's
game.
based or that inspired this movie would.
Okay.
So what's the deal? Because playing the video game, it's literally a dude looking at screens. Who I don't even think he has a name.
Event. I think you get it when you get fired at the end of it for having a
It's on your
spell.
paycheck, I think, too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
I did
No,
beat
you're
it.
right.
I was proud of myself.
You beat the whole game.
Yeah, I mean it's like it was 6 days, right, or whatever, 6 or 7
It's
or
called
something like that.
5 Nights at Freddy's.
I think there's a
I know,
seventh
like
How
night.
many
There's
days?
it said that I won, and then it said, "Did you want to play a 6th day?" So I was like,
Oh,
okay.
This is
So-
bonus.
Well, I thought it was really cool. I remember being back into it as a kid and looking at the lore videos, and people would try and like figure out what was going on. All the posters in the back, and the posters in the cameras, they would switch to like news.
We appear to have lost your visual, Alex. I don't know what's going on there, but I can hear you still.
No.
Did anybody else lose audio?
I
Alex, try speaking again real quick.
I lost Alex
he
completely.
disappeared from my screen.
Oh, so I like nobody has Alex.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, Alex is just fully gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will
Like the
pick up where
children that
Alex
went
left off briefly. Alex was talking about how it was partially inspired by a real event, and I did seem to find credible information about that, like some incident in Aurora, Colorado in 1993, which is, I guess, when the game takes place at a Chuck E. Cheese, where like a disgruntled employee um, took out their anger in a bad way. But anybody else have any lore they want to contribute?
Okay, so this is based off of memory because I did not look up the 2-hour lore videos before we started, to like refresh it. But what I remember is the general premise takes place in the 80s, like you said, at a Chuck E. Cheese style, Showbiz Pizza style family restaurant with animatronics. Oh, there we got Alex back.
We got Alex back. Cool.
Many apologies. We don't have to do a hard restart because of that.
No, we're cool.
Okay.
I can edit around a little bit.
I was just giving the super like high level premise of FNaF, and we got up to the point of it's at a pizza parlor with animatronics. Backstory is a guy named William Afton was the founder, and again, apologies because I'm going off of memory, so it might technically have a different title, but he was also a serial killer, as it happens, dual interest serial killer and entrepreneur. Started Five Nights at Freddy's, and at some point there was we lost Alex again. There's a situation involving his children, and in a roundabout solution / like vengeance for that, he kills 5 children and then traps their souls in the various animatronics in the restaurant. Hey, welcome back.
Went ahead and plugged in this Wi-Fi adapter for my laptop, so that should do us some favors. Many apologies. Sorry.
No, you're cool.
We got to 5 children murdered at Five Nights at Freddy's and placed in. Their souls are now trapped inside of different animatronics, which are like the 5 main ones that we see in the movie. And then it gets a lot more convoluted from there, but that's kind of the basics of the premise. So there's also a ghost that likes to lure other children and try to trap them into other animatronics. There's a spring lock suit, which we also see in the movie, where you physically get inside of an animatronic and control it. And it's notoriously a bad idea and often kills people when they do that. Go figure.
What's fascinating is that like the lore seems to be manufactured by like the people more than like the games, and then they just kind of incorporate it into the games. It's like the video game creepypasta, right?
Definitely. And these games, from what I remember, certainly the first one came out right around the time that creepypasta was taking over, before it started bleeding into the real world and there were some murders, and then people kind of backed off from the creepypasta movement. Gone but not forgotten. But FNaF was definitely like right in that kind of zeitgeist. And I think you're correct that most of the lore people had to piece together. Hence why you also get a lot of YouTube videos about Five Nights at Freddy's, which I think is another reason why it was hugely popular on YouTube, because you had a lot of content there that you could make around not just playing the game.
I think that's where the interesting thing about this is going to come into play, which is that this is where the review portion can begin, and we can start talking about the movie. Scott Cawthon is the writer of this movie and the creator of the game and stuff like that. And I think there's a certain level of brilliance to what some would consider like lazy writing, of like, you don't have to write it if other people do the job for you, but you can incorporate what's good and seem like a genius after the fact. And it's kind of brilliant. And I think people did that to manufacture like a great set of games that are admittedly very fun and effectively scary. And he kind of is, with this film, I felt like trying to bring that same kind of energy to it, because it went through like development hell for like 10 years or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Which I'll get into when we start talking about like the making of the movie and stuff. But what did people think about this movie? Because I came into it, basically, I saw this in theaters when it first came out, because my daughter really wanted to see it, and she was like 7 at the time. And I was unsure if she should be able to, but she liked the games and stuff. So I was like, is it too scary? And I was like, probably not, but I'll wait till she's a little older. She's since seen it this year and whatnot. But I came into it completely blind, without knowing anything outside of what a 7-year-old is like telling me.
Constantly.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of it before I kind of get into my thoughts?
I like it. I think I think the brother sister was a really good like way to focus the story, because it made you care a lot more than if it was just some like guy. And I don't know, I think it did a fun job like incorporating all the lore and the cameos that so many fans were like looking forward to seeing on the screen. I think it's well done for what it is. I'm pretty sure a lot of the animatronics are practical for a decent amount of the film, which I really appreciate. I love practical effects. And it's just fun to watch, you know?
Very nice.
Yeah, I kind of like how the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was able to kind of really hone in their target audience, which is like the hardcore fans. And then you might have some people that are coming to watch with their partner or their kids or something. And they did make it appealing for that. Like, I feel like in terms of like modern video game movies, the Minecraft movie kind of leaned more towards bigger appeal. Whereas the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was like, let's really have more cameos, more fan references, or like really, really niche references to different parts of the games, and even like certain taglines the characters would have, or certain sound effects even would come in. It was, people call that fan service. I was very serviced as a fan. I loved it.
I dig it.
Well, not to be a complete contrarian, but I am a little bit more on the side of not liking this movie. I have things that I really love about it and things that I really dislike about it, and I kind of end up somewhere in the middle. And having rewatched it now like a couple times, I think I dislike it more every time that I see it. So unfortunately, I have to be the person that poo-poos a
There's
little
nothing.
bit, you know.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But the fan service stuff, I think, is good.
Issues though, I will never be like it's perfect. It's got its.
Oh, we're gonna get into issues.
Oh
believe
yeah,
me.
I'm sure we will.
At the end of the day, I liked it. So when I first saw it, I knew nothing about it, and I was entertained. I was like, you know what, this is a pretty solid introductory film. It goes harder than like, you know, Goosebumps, but it doesn't go harder than Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's certainly like a soft PG-13. And the only reason I said no to Willow watching it was because I didn't want to deflate her interest in Five Nights at Freddy's, because it's kind of a bland movie about adults where occasionally you have these haunted animatronics who come in and have like a cute indie film like building of a fort. And I didn't want her like love for this series to just deflate. She since saw it, like as I say earlier this year, she was not scared by it, but she thought it was amazing. She was blown away. Her 10-year-old mind was rocked. And then she like had me pause the movie about 72 times so she could explain like little fun facts. And I did the same to her at one point, which I'll get into later. But no, I thought it was like a charming movie that's like based on a video game that is known for being outrageously scary with its jump scares. The film doesn't have like a single one outside of like what is it, Balloon Boy or something, when he opens a locker and the camera like zooms in, you hear a little scream, right?
Things are like sort of tension building, or there's
Yeah.
like jump scare with Foxy running down the hallway, but I don't even know if you'd consider that a jump scare. It's kind of tame if it is.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
There's a more effective jump scare in the first Wicked when you first meet the flying ape, and that was like startling as hell. The fact that Wicked goes harder than Five Nights is pretty.
I haven't even
wild.
seen that movie, but I want to see it before. I know, but I want to see before the second one, before I go and see the second one. So now I'm like, I'm gonna be scared for the jump scare.
It happens. It still works even after seeing the movie several times. All right. Let's go into some of the more analytical parts of the movie. One of the things I really liked about the movie that I guess is part of the lore and part of the video game, but I think works really well in the movie, is the whole missing children and the dream sequences thing. I like, I'm in Minnesota. I've grown up here and whatnot, and growing up, I grew up during a time where there's a very insanely famous missing child case, the Jacob Wetterling story. And that's just something that's been embedded in me ever since like very young childhood, like 5. I think I was 5 when that happened. And so when I was watching the movie, I found the unsettling nature of like a child nabber like pretty effective, and all the dream sequences are shot really well. I think they're done far better than the other like quote unquote scary bits within the pizzeria, right? How did that land for people? I found that to be by far the most compelling part, was the dream sequence things.
I would agree. I think it was a better Dr. Sleep than the Dr. Sleep movie was. Like all of those. I know.
You are the contrarian. That's my favorite Stephen King movie.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I mean,
no, you're fine.
Yeah, but I think that was definitely those were like kind of the most unsettling parts of the movie in a way too. Even though it's a movie about haunted animatronics, the dream sequences were shot in a way that is kind of like eerie and nostalgic, but nostalgic in a bad way. Like it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So that's my thoughts on it.
They also operated strangely with the Nightmare on Elm Street rules, where if you get hurt in the dream, you get hurt in real life. The fuck was that? Like,
Yeah.
that's not in the game, right?
No.
Well, I think,
and they didn't. It was like so casual when it happened too. Like nobody seemed to acknowledge, like, why are you bleeding?
the movie relies a lot on, for better or for worse, it relies a lot seemingly on the, I don't know, supernatural like kind of logic. In the games, I know that when there are like mini games, if you fail the mini game, you do restart. So I guess that could be seen as like a type of death. I thought the dream sequences were really cool, maybe because as like a longtime fan, the pizzeria almost felt familiar. And then when they would cut to a dream sequence, I was like, oh, this feels weird. Like, where are we? Also, it was a little more unpredictable. Like, oh, what's going to happen next? Also, the blurred out faces on the kids, that it just gave me so much ick. I was like, oh, this is so unsettling. It was because it was just, oh, they were like smudged out like in Photoshop. It was really good horror. I was just like, meh.
Yeah, I liked how their outfits also matched the different animatronics, but it didn't feel like it was hitting you over the head with it. It was just like a very a little bit more subtle that you can pick up on easily, but you don't feel like it's trying to ram
main kid was especially unsettling.
Yeah.
I liked him.
I think it was probably hard to find a kid actor who was good at being unsettling, I guess, because he did a really good job.
He had a quality. I don't know.
Something weird about that kid. Good job.
That boy ain't right. Okay. Speaking of the dreams, there was a massive section of this movie that was reliant on your main character being unconscious exclusively while at work. So he could, like, he did sleep during the day, which was fascinating. But regardless, the dreams and the memory of it all I found to be quite interesting. And there's a certain section in the film where they're talking. You have Mike and Vanessa talking, and he finally like puts everything on Front Street for her and explains that he's trying to recreate this scenario, right? So as to dip into his memory and see if he can uncover who is the killer. And we'll get into the like mystery of the movie in a minute, but one of my dear friends and person who's been on this podcast is like a PhD with brain psychology and memory and stuff like that. So I reached out to him and I actually got a bit of an interview with him, which I'm going to insert here.
Yeah, I'm Matthew Sazma, and I used to be a professor of psychology and studied memory and false memories.
Right on. Have you seen Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie?
I have not.
Okay. Well, this is going to be a lot to unpack without having seen the movie, but Five Nights at Freddy's follows a character whose brother was abducted as they were both children. He feels like he saw something but was unable to retain what he saw. And so he's trying constantly throughout the film to immerse himself in a dreamscape so that he can find his long-lost brother, who most people believe him to be dead. And he does so with this quote that I sent you, and then I'm going to let you kind of go off at that point, because I just wanted to know, is this something that's even logistically possible? The quote that I wanted you to unpack is, so there's this theory that we can't forget things. Basically, it says that every single thing that you see in your entire lifetime, the tiniest of details, gets stored inside of you. You just have to know how to look. What do you make of this?
So I think it's really interesting, and based on your description of the movie, it feels like they do a lot of things pretty well related to how memory actually works. But I would say that I have a problem with the very end part of that quote, where, you just need to know how to look. And I think that's something that doesn't hold reality. And so to give a broad overview, I would say that the quote, like photographic memory of like people remember every single detail, that does not appear to be humanly possible. Some people have really good memories, and some people have near photographic memories for certain types of things, but for other, it's not a universal sort of thing. Now, that being said, how a lot of people think about memory isn't the way it actually works. So memory isn't like a video cassette, to age myself, that kind of stores a memory after it's been played, and then you kind of go back and retrieve it and play it again. Memory is very much an active, constructive process, and so very often when you're thinking or bringing up an old memory, some of your current knowledge and feelings about the world tend to shape that memory. And so that's kind of sort of the broad overview of memory isn't this complete perfect record. But how the movie goes about trying to recall a memory, I think you said they like recreate the context as much as possible to kind of facilitate the memory retrieval.
Yeah.
That's actually based in real science. Like the better you can reinstate the context, the more retrieval cues you're giving your brain, and the more likely it's able to find the other synapses and connections that it had formed and kind of fire off and create and recreate that memory.
The thing that I had a touch of a hang up on is I seem to remember you telling me years ago that you, when you try to retrieve a memory, you're actually remembering a memory of a memory. So every time you access it again, it's sort of over and over again. Is this not a way to implant false memories?
It definitely can be. And there have been documented scientific studies where they implant false memories in people. Actually, fairly like a decade ago, there was a study where they basically did a series of 3 police interviews of, I think it was 60 minutes each. And at the first one, they accused people of like, hey, assault and battery, right? Like a felony. These people were totally innocent. In the first interview, they all denied it. By the third interview, I think 60% of the participants like had confessed to the crime, and had actually like retrieved it. And it's one of those things of, like our mind is kind of creating our reality. Our memories are not this, unmalleable kind of solid thing. They can absolutely kind of be traced. Now, it's not as kind of James Bond villainy of like, it's very difficult to like actually, if people, this is kind of how gaslighting works, but if people have other connections, they're able to, realize that it's not real, then it falls apart pretty quickly. Yeah, I would say people's memories tend to get distorted a lot more often than they tend to be completely fabricated. And oftentimes, like the core meaning or the emotions attached to it are real. Those are the things that tend to be there. And then it's the associated bits of information that tend to get scrambled. And those are kind of the most common memory errors that happen.
Are those like retrievable, like they say in the movie, or like from that perspective? Can you undo it?
As far as I'm aware, an active debate in the field. So what tends to happen is that, right, a bunch of neurons are active when you're moving about in the world, and then something significant happens, and there's some chemical processes that kind of strengthen that, so you're able to then reactivate some of those neurons, and they tend to fire together again to recreate that experience. Now, over time, like, basically when you're repeating something over time, you're strengthening some of those real connections, and that can absolutely be the case where false stuff gets included in that, but it's not like there's no way to easily predict exactly how it's going to work, right? There's a lot of randomness, and the connections between neurons are well beyond anything we can feasibly like figure out how they're actually interacting on like a molecular level. And so there's pieces of truth of like how malleable and easy it is to implant false memories, but at the same time, oftentimes the core parts of it, those are real, and those are tend to not have as many distortions. A famous kind of study in the field of memory is after 9/11, there were some researchers who had approval to basically, after a major event, interview people right away to get as accurate of a retelling of the event as they could. So basically, hey, 9/11 happened. Most people in our generation can remember where they were, what they were doing, who they were with. And it's known as a flashbulb memory. And these tend to feel very salient, very vivid, and most people are very confident that they know exactly what it is. And so the interviewers or the researchers followed up with them 6 months and then 18 months later, and basically almost all participants had distortions in their memories at those later time points. Generally not, well, sometimes it was major. They could classify like basically how big were the distortions. Almost everybody had at least some minor distortion of like, oh, I was here, with this person. Some of them like completely flipped of like, I was in this state when really they were in a different state. And so it shows that people's confidence in their memories doesn't always correlate to how accurate their memories actually are.
Very cool.
One other thing I wanted to say related to that first part of the quote of like, right, our body does remember everything. Yeah. The reason why I hesitate, and I say that photographic memory or the ability to kind of retrieve everything and know exactly what it is, I think that's impossible. But what memory is at its core is your neurons kind of physically changing in a way, right, over time. And so memory, basically, whenever you encode something, there is a physical change in your brain that happens. And so there's a popular book called The Body Keeps Score. I actually haven't read the full thing, but I think it's a similar principle of, I don't think you could consciously remember everything, but there will be some neurons, even basic learning color and how stripes work. Basically, your neurons at those very low levels that will never be able to consciously control, they learn how to complete things in their own way. And this is why a lot of optical illusions kind of work, is because consciously you know that, hey, this is not what I'm seeing. These lines are the exact same length, but your brain just tricks itself because you can't consciously control those very low-level neurons. And so those low-level neurons are, right, when they're sensing the color yellow or the color green, right, they're firing. And that has some long-lasting kind of just implications, but not in a kind of we can control every single sort of thing sort of way.
Very cool. Basically, large chunks of this movie are complete hokum, especially if you're trying to do this within a dream. But does anybody have anything to say on that?
Supernatural, explanation again of, well, there's something spooky going on that can't be explained.
Yeah.
The dreams are kind of like not dreams. I don't know.
Yeah.
He seems very conscious during
They're almost like, what's that word? They're like some dream walking that people do, or
like lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like he's forcing, like almost not like he's actually dreaming. It's more like he's using the dream as a vehicle to try to get information.
And I guess it's kind of like, in that sense, I think it's a really interesting perspective on grief and like trauma, in the sense of like wanting so desperately to get access to something you just can't access anymore because it's gone. And whether that's like a person or a memory, that I never thought about it that way, but that makes a lot of sense, especially now that we know that it's kind of like, oh yeah, a lot of it's hokum. But I guess that kind of fits with this broader theme of grief in the movie, or change as well, where it's like you can't go back no matter how hard you try. You can't change what happened, or you can't, or even if he did access that information in his head, it wouldn't change. It wouldn't change anything, which is unfortunate. But just sort of that process of trying and trying and trying.
Yeah. Well, the dreams and the hokum of it is certainly not the hardest pill to swallow with the movie. There's far more far-fetched things in the film. I think the aunt being possibly the biggest one. Her plan is to get rich quick by adopting a child for a stimmy check. Like
Yeah.
Like what? I would buy that if the person looked like uneducated and very poor and stuff like that. But this is a clearly well-educated, very like spruced up, well-dressed woman who clearly has money and is like, I'm gonna get that $1,000 from the gov, yo.
Or if there was something like an inheritance, maybe, but
Yeah.
I thought when I first watched the movie, it was like waiting for that reveal or just to be mentioned offhand, and then it never happened.
That said, her lawyer was amazing. He was the best cast person in this entire movie. But that whole like plot was so strange because if she were to acquire a child and get that stimulus money for the taxes and whatnot, wouldn't she eventually get reported for neglect? Because clearly she doesn't want anything to do with this child. She wants to get rich off of this kid. So probably doesn't want to like feed her well. I suppose you could have like a Dursley's situation from Harry Potter or something. But like this kid's going to just go right back to the brother or into the foster system, right?
Mm-hmm.
It also kind of leaves a weird taste in my mouth, admittedly, looking back on it, because it kind of, like, there's that whole discussion, you could say, like, oh, people want government benefits just to milk them, when it's, like, really, in reality, they also usually aren't enough, and people still need, like, however many
100%.
jobs. Yeah, and so it's as if she's gonna, like, get this whole piggy bank of money from this one kid, when usually it's, like, you don't get enough at all. And what you would be spending taking care of this kid is like not.
Yeah.
This kid is like old enough to eat like more than just like a Happy Meal at McDonald's. You know what I mean? It's like this kid's already requiring food that's like near adult. Like this is an older kid.
If anything, it's the age where things get more expensive too, because there's like clothes, hobbies, extracurriculars, birthdays, and like friends and things. There's like so much.
That girl
I
had
don't know.
like
It just
fashion.
doesn't make sense.
Like
Yeah.
she already declared what her outfits look like, and it looked like by choice. So like this girl's gonna be expensive. I don't know. I bumped into that whole aunt thing. She's really well played. Mary Stuart Masterson is just vile. She's so good in the movie. But
well, and then she blows into the movie in a weird way, and then blows out of it just as weird, where she is a corpse. I don't know if we're getting no spoilers, sorry, but
never addressed again.
Yeah, like on their floor, and I have so many questions about just logistically. Like, did they explain that to the police? Did they just dump her somewhere? Did no one notice?
Maybe Golden Freddy didn't lie, and she was just sleeping on the floor.
She was taking a nap, and then she just woke up and said, "This is, you know what? It's not worth the effort. I'm going home."
She fished the pills out of the river that Vanessa threw in there, which was also crazy. I remember in the theater, I was like, "She threw those? What? Like, I would be so mad. I'd be like, those are prescription, dude. Like, probably expensive.
Like hundreds of dollars that you just."
I didn't even think of that, but yeah, you're right. That is kind of an effed up thing to do.
I would know if someone did that to me, I'd be mad. Also, because they are prescription, I would be so mad. But anyways, yeah, she fished those out and then just chilled out for the night.
Also deeply perplexing is that this film is presented as a mystery, but only introduces like 5 characters. So you're like, well, clearly Matthew Lillard did it. Like Shaggy's the killer. It's like the weirdest presentation of a murder mystery I've ever seen.
Punk guy is the killer.
Yeah, dude, he is so good. Like, we have just added to his iconic like characters that he's played, from like that random dude in Hackers to obviously Scream. SLC Punk is a masterpiece. Shaggy, like,
Hottest guy ever. I gotta say, it, SLC Punk. Dude, when I discovered that, I was like, whoa, I didn't know Matthew Lillard could look like this. Anyways.
I believe it. So William Afton of it all, like Matthew Lillard is fantastic in the movie. Like he comes in the beginning as like the phone call thing, which now that I've played the game, I recognize is like a pretty neat intro. But watching it the first time, I was watching it, I was like, huh, this seems like a shamefully underused Matthew Lillard. And then as the movie was going on, and there was like a suggestion that this was going to be a murder mystery of some kind, I was like, I bet you Matthew Lillard's the killer. And then it turned out to be the killer. Rewatching it a second time, what is his plan? Like, he's like a career guy, and he gets this name on his desk that he recognizes, and he's like, I want this guy closer to the crime scene. I'm going to bring him in.
Yeah. And also, why not just have Vanessa work as the security guard? I mean, it seems like he's got a lot of control over her emotionally, manipulating her like throughout the whole thing. So like that was my thought too. I got to the end. It's like, well, why would you hire somebody else to come out here? Why not just hire her to? It just seemed like a great opportunity to have someone.
It could be that she was the worst police officer ever, and he needed a reliable security guard. So
okay. Yeah,
he chose the person that sleeps on the job.
But also, I don't remember if this was covered. I don't remember if this detail, but like, did he know as the career counselor that this guy also had like a violent history? Because that's how he got fired from his last job.
Yeah, that's like one of the first things he addresses is
so
the
like,
security cam footage.
Let's get this guy closer to the crime. Also, you are knowingly violent. Maybe he thought like easy kill, like easy defense, like, oh, he got me first. I don't know. Was he trying to kill this guy, or does he just like killing kids? I don't know. There is like a why. I don't know.
Like his plan in this was just so perplexing. Like I guess you could bring him in assuming that he'll have the robots kill him or whatever. But then like they just don't. Instead, they're making like pillow forts and having like, I don't know. That was just like, it's fascinating. But he's so good in his like 2 scenes that like I'm prepared to watch a whole cinematic universe with this guy. Going back to the aunt, I also found it strange that her plan was to hire out people to ransack the building. So her plan to get rich requires paying out people more so they can ransack a building. Well, the security guard's not fucking there.
Well, he's not on duty. And they could have just done it when he was on duty because he was just sleeping the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have made a more like tense thing. Like, is he gonna wake up?
What was weird too is Vanessa was like, because remember she shows up at his house, and then she's like, "Oh, you could be charged with negligence," but it seems like maybe she would know that that would not be the case because it happened when he wasn't there, and also would they not have seen then that like the criminals' cars and things were still there? I don't know.
And the security cameras too.
The
Yeah.
one person got cut in half. And there's no blood. But there's glass left. Like, so somebody cleaned up part of the crime scene.
They probably started and then found the next body, and then they're like, this is over my head. Like, this is too much for me. Like,
yeah, and also they just shunt off the bodies into a different room. It's not like they're... Well, that's another thing.
Throw them in the pile, yeah.
And this is from the video game, I guess, right? Like, because William Afton is stuffing the children in the bodies, and they're like, Vanessa has that line, like, nobody would ever think to look there. And I'm like, luckily, when children die, they don't smell, apparently. Because
Well, maybe the animatronic suits like already smell really bad. To
They already
begin
have
with.
like a dead body funk about them.
Yeah, like the
Well,
hydraulic.
in the games, that is explained better than in the movie. Because in the games, on one of the newspaper clippings, one of the reasons why the pizzeria got shut down is because they reported like ooze coming from the animatronics and a smell. People were like, "Oh, they're smelling weird." I don't know why
Oh, that's
people.
kind of cool.
Yeah. So in the game, it makes more sense. They're like, "Oh, let's shut this place down." There's like weird things happening, and then I think, and then they figured out, but the kid's dying, and they're like, "Oh, let's call it quits. Let's clock out." But yeah. So that was,
Presumably
or
this
maybe
happens
they.
at more than one location, right? How did William Afton
Yeah.
get away with it?
Yeah,
I
Maybe
know
it
it's
was
a
like
video game,
Facebook.
and I know I shouldn't think about this.
he's just that good.
Well,
It
'cause
was
I
the
think in
80s.
the-
You could, there was the DNA evidence
that's
wasn't
fair.
really solidified back then. So
Everyone had mullets. Who knows, dude? Really?
yeah,
Like, well, because I think in the lore, this might be the book's lore, which I think if I remember correctly, they're treated kind of separately, but it was actually two guys. So maybe
yeah.
Afton did like the Facebook thing and ditched his buddy or something like that. And I don't know, I don't know, because you're right. How does he keep getting away with it? Is the
I want to
question.
watch the social network version of Five Nights at Freddy's.
I would love that.
Or it's like the kids are like an afterthought, and it's really about the drama between these two dudes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on. So at the end of the day, this whole film seemed like a kind of proof of concept pitch for a better movie. If they just kind of get the lore out of the way and get everybody just acclimated to what this is, they can do a really like balls to the wall sequel. And admittedly, the trailers for the sequel, which this will be dropping about a week before the next one comes out, the new movie looks genuinely good and
looks
actually kind of
really
scary.
good. Mhm.
Speaking
So
of Mangle, like I think it's like breaking through a window or something. I was like, I replayed it in slow mo. I was like, oh my god.
yeah, like so I kind of feel like they're doing like a Star Trek thing. The first Star Trek movie just was like, all right, we know that like here's the geeky stuff, here are the characters, get used to them. And then the second movie they had was like a genuine masterpiece. So I'm hoping that we get something on that level. I don't know that we'll get a masterpiece out of Five Nights.
Citizen Freddys, yeah.
Doctor Who
Yeah.
kind of did the same thing. Well, because they had the
Yeah,
break,
right.
and then the Doctor Who movie came out with, I'm forgetting his name because he was a lovely doctor. He like only existed for that movie and some voice things, but that movie bombed. It was kind of a proof of concept though, and then they really brought it back with Christopher Eccleston, and they kept the parts that
Yeah.
worked. So hope maybe for the second movie they'll ditch some of the ooh spooky, who knows logic, and maybe it'll be like a little more grounded, which would be cool, I think.
The thing is like I can get on board. Like I'm sitting here picking apart the plot of the aunt and her many misadventures. Meanwhile, I'm completely comfortable with no, these animatronics are haunted by children. Like that's what they do.
That just makes sense. Her plan just doesn't.
So like I'm on board with giving us like a kooky movie. I just wanted to. This movie asked a weird amount of me, and also asked me to not pay attention to any of it.
Yeah, it was weirdly like, oh, adopt this logic, and then it's like, but don't worry about this. Don't
Yeah.
like think too hard.
This is kind
It
of like
was
the Rise of
weirdly
Skywalker,
Yeah.
except way better. In that it's just like we're gonna just go so fast you're not even gonna worry about it. But this movie kind of goes at like a plausible speed. All right. I'm gonna get into some of the fun facts and trivia about this movie. As mentioned earlier, the animatronics in this film were created by Jim Henson Studios. Almost all of the stuff was done practically, and when they were like walking around and stuff, it took like 6 puppeteers off screen to get them to walk and do stuff, which is pretty cool. Pretty much the only animatronic was the killer Pac-Man cupcake thing. And let's see. Who would win in a fight, Pac-Man or the haunted cupcake?
Gotta be
Pac-Man
Cupcake.
can't
The
fight
cat
ghosts, but
cupcake.
How big is Pac-Man?
Let's
I
say
don't
they're
know.
equal size, like for the sake of the argument.
There are Five Nights at Freddy. I'm gonna say there are Five Nights at Freddy's video, like the little, like the little 8-bit cutscenes.
Yeah,
If it was the 8-bit
Oh.
cutscene that is Pac-Man's home base, he would win for sure. In real life, Pac-Man is probably disoriented and confused. Cupcake would win. Does that make sense?
I think Cupcake would win regardless.
Oh wait.
yeah.
Oh
Pac-Man
right.
can't
Okay.
handle ghosts, so
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
true.
Yeah, he just eats static little.
he can eat
Yellow
like
balls.
cheese and cherries and stuff like that. But
Pac-Man
And
used
the
to call
cupcake has a body count in this movie. It's like one of the
yeah,
is the most
He's lethal.
successful killer. Yeah.
has a body count is hilarious. Referring to like an animatronic cupcake.
Body count on the cupcake.
I like
Wait,
almost forgot
is-
what you were referring to.
is the cupcake like a major part of the video games? Because like he got a lot of love in this movie, or is the director just like a hardcore fan?
I guess
Fan
hardcore
love.
fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how little Freddy actually did. Like I suppose he
like-
did bite a woman in half, but
The fan itself too was such a big thing for fans, like lol. But you know, like the desk fan, because I think you
Yeah.
spend so much time in that musty closet. It's like, and I think people actually personify these inanimate objects because you're spending hours in there and you're scared and you're alone. So what are your friends? The fan and the cupcake.
yeah, it's pretty wild. William Afton cleaning his knife is a reference to Scream, which I geeked out when I saw in the theater, and I like started clapping. And there was one other dude in the auditorium that was like way in the back who was like, "Yeah." Everybody else was like children, and they were like, "I don't get it." But I geeked out at that, and that's when watching it with Willow after she was talking to me throughout the entire movie about all the things I was missing. I paused the movie and I was like, "This is a reference to Scream," and I got the lore dump on her. Let's see. There were 10 earlier drafts of this screenplay that were abandoned or rejected before the film's screenplay was ultimately accepted. Looked like the one that came closest to being made was turned into a novel, which became like a trilogy of novels or something called The Silver Eyes or whatnot. But that was almost what your Five Nights movie was. And the director before Tammi signed on was Chris Columbus, who did like Home Alone and Gremlins, and he wrote Gremlins and the first two Harry Potters. I think he would have been a good choice, but I think Tammy's talented. Like, she knew where to put the camera. I'm hoping with the second one she can build more tension.
Mm-hmm.
But I can provide a link in this description area of the video so that people can read the 10 abandoned concepts. Some of them are really interesting, and some of them sound nothing like Five Nights at Freddy's to a fascinating degree. So yeah, I'll let people explore that on their own time. This part I thought was super interesting. The film is set in the year 2000. You can see that according to security cam footage. And the film also takes place here in Minnesota, as you can see on the legal paperwork handed to Mike, complete with 651 area code on the phone numbers listed, as well as the website mncourts.gov, which takes you to the Minnesota Judicial System website. And it's likely set in the city of Granite Falls because of the GFPD on the car.
Did not even pick up on either of those.
I saw the thing on the legal docs, and I was like, "Where does this take place?" And it said something about Utah, and I'm like, that doesn't seem right. So then I was like searching for videos, and I found a Matt Pat who's in this movie video where he broke it down pretty effectively.
I love that scene. Like, I wanted more cheesy stuff like that, where just Matt Pat shows up and takes their order and then says, "It's just a theory." I stood up.
That was
and
the most
clapped.
forced line, but I was
So-
there for it.
It was
so
perfect.
cute,
It was
love the cheese.
perfect.
I wanted more cheese. That was.
It was
I
like
think, the biggest-
the
When I saw it
excitement.
in theaters the first time, I as I say, I knew nothing about the lore or the fact that he really helped like popularize the lore. So when he showed up and did the film theory, I was like, I watch this guy's videos all the time. What the hell is he doing in this movie?
Oh yeah, because film theory.
Yeah, I watch his
Yeah,
film
yeah,
theory
yeah.
things all the time. He has some really funny ones with like Joker and stuff like that. All right. This film is an amalgamation of the Five Nights lore by using the character of Mike Schmidt from FNaF 1, Vanessa from Security Breach, Springtrap from FNaF 3, Ella from The Silver Eyes, and concludes the exact same as the Fourth Closet. I thought that was interesting. Any insight on any of that? I've played FNaF 1.
I haven't read any of the books, but I thought it was interesting how much they pulled from them. I wasn't expecting that. I was pretty much expecting like a carbon copy lore-wise of the first game. But maybe because the lore ended up being such a fusion, like you talked about earlier, like, yes, there was some creator lore, and then it kind of spiraled into this, like, fan thing, and then he took parts of that. Maybe because it became just, like, such a mess, for lack of a better word. Maybe they were like, let's try and brush this off and clean it up and try and be... Which is interesting, because it's still very confusing, actually.
Yeah, when Vanessa showed up in this movie, I was pretty surprised. I think I understand why they went the direction they did for the story they were trying to tell in this movie, and kind of have another character that Josh Hutcherson could interact with, so he's not just sleeping the whole time and then talking to ghost children. So that like did work well, but it gets a little bit confusing and muddled in the game lore to have her introduce this early. But we'll see what happens in the second movie.
I really like that actress, Elizabeth Lail. She's in like the first season of You. She's fantastic. She's really good. She was kind of underused in this, but I like her a lot. She has an amazing voice.
It kind of feels like they ended up pulling like a Studio Ghibli. If you've seen a few of their movies, they will reuse names and characters, sometimes character designs entirely, but then they'll just sort of repurpose them, or even like the character mannerisms will be the same, but they'll just like plop them in different roles. It kind of feels like they did that with like the kids and Vanessa and Mike. It just made them a little different.
Yeah. So ultimately, what do we think of this movie? Let's go around and give it how many? Let's see. Haunted animatronic, haunted animatronic woodland creatures. Do you give it?
Out of 5, or
out of 5?
Yeah, I was like, how many? I was like, there's Springtrap. There's like,
like on your personal level, how many haunted animatronic woodland creatures are you going to give this movie? I can go first if people want.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this movie a 3.5 out of 5. I think that this movie is good. Like, I've been sitting here and kind of nitpicking the movie, but at the same time, I had a good time with it. I like the look of the movie. I really like Josh Hutcherson is genuinely good. I will watch anything Matthew Lillard's in, no matter what. I like Elizabeth Lail. That kid, Abby, she's all right.
Sparkling review.
She's a kid actress. Like, they get better. And that I was really impressed with the animatronics. As I say, I feel like this is a solid introductory film for people to get into horror at a very young age, around the age Abby is.
Well, I would say I'm at a 2.5, so a little bit lower, just based on personal enjoyment. I almost like it more when a movie is so offensively bad that I get angry at it, and I don't think that was this movie. It's definitely just more milk toast, mild. There's a lot of, in my opinion, really dragged out scenes. I would have loved this to lean more into the camp, or go one of two directions: be way more gritty and grounded, or be way more campy. And it didn't really go in either direction enough for me to enjoy it. But it's also just kind of inoffensively mid. There's nothing horrible about it. It's not going to get me riled up. I'm probably going to forget about it again, and then a couple years from now watch it and then remember everything that happened in it. But I do think that
should go on the dust jacket. Inoffensively mid.
Inoffensively mid. I think that's like my ending quote there. Inoffensively mid. I was just mostly bored through a majority of this movie, except for a couple of scenes that I did really enjoy. I am looking forward to the second one, and I think for the audience that this is targeted for, it is a good introduction into horror. That's what I would say.
I think I'd give it maybe 3 woodland haunted animatronics. I think, to me, maybe honestly, I think on Letterboxd I gave it like a 2 or a 2.5, which might have been a little low. I felt like I enjoyed it a lot more than the friends I watched it with, and so then I felt pressure to rate it lower. But I think it's a fun watch. It does what it needs to do. It's like Twilight to me, where like I know it's not great, but I'm having a wonderful time. And
That's fair.
I love Josh Hutcherson. So I think it's a good intro to Five Nights at Freddy's, and it needs more fan service, in my opinion. Those were like the most enjoyable bits of the film to me, and I hope, like what we were talking about with jump scares earlier, that it needed to be more scary than it was. But regardless, it's fun for me to watch. So
the second one looks like it's going to be a lot more jump scary, but also fan servicey, and I think that's a good thing.
I think yes.
What did you think, Alex? How many woodland creatures are you gonna get?
I'm gonna say 4.5 haunted woodland creatures out of 5.
Right
if
on.
Markiplier was in it, it would be 5.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Marky Moo, the man, if he was in there.
Who?
Okay.
Markiplier?
Okay.
We're gonna send you a bunch of links right after the recording.
He is the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. Also was at the Bite of 87. Anyways, there's like he's him and MatPat were like the two kings for why this game kind of became as big as it did, really. And then all the fan base, but they were really like the fuel to the flame for the fans.
Was there a reason he wasn't in the movie?
Yeah, he was actually doing. You would probably actually really enjoy this movie because he loves horror, a lot of things, horror movies, horror games, mostly games. But he was filming his own movie based on a different horror game called The Iron Lung, and he's one of the biggest YouTubers out there for gaming, and so he has all this money and resources, and so he's starring in the movie and producing it.
That's really cool.
Well, no, he's super. As far as I can tell, I don't know him personally, but
yeah.
What'd you say?
I bet you he shows up in the second one.
Oh, I'm gonna.
I thought it was confirmed.
I have no idea. I just learned that this person is an existing person on this planet just now. So
we will send you videos, Matt. It's okay.
Yeah. That's how I got introduced to Five Nights at Freddy's. Like back in the day, was I used to watch Markiplier, and then he played Five Nights at Freddy's, and it looked really fun. So then I played it. That was 11 years ago.
You know how I got introduced to Five Nights at Freddy's? I was working at Barnes & Noble. It was like 2014. And there was maybe it was 2015. We got in a box of toys that said Five Nights at Freddy's, and it was for like October. It was a Halloween kind of release, and I was like, Five Nights at Freddy's, is this like a Freddy Krueger thing? I'm like the biggest Freddy fan, so like I frantically opened that box, and I was like, the fuck is this bear? Like, what? I was so disappointed, and then I was like asking around, and people were like, "You don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is?" And I was like, "No." So yeah, that was my introduction.
Tragic.
So I was bitter towards it because it wasn't Freddy Krueger, and then they make the movie and give the same Freddy logic in the dreams.
Freddy's #1 disappointed fan is what you became.
Yeah. Well, does anybody else have any final thoughts or anything?
No, we kind of touched on it, but I think from a scare point of view, it was a huge missed opportunity to not have at least one scene where main character's in the office and there's something unsettling going on outside of the office and he hears weird noises and he's looking at the security camera. I know that they probably wouldn't want that to be the whole movie because that would get really old really quickly, but I was just so disappointed that we didn't have any of that and that he just sleeps through every single shift. And then from the character's perspective, he really doesn't notice anything amiss at the FNaF until his sister shows up and is talking to these animatronics. Like, there's not really that building of tension.
No, it's true, and it's disappointing. As I say, I don't know what the director's done prior to this, but I would not be surprised if she was like an indie filmmaker, because she had that vibe to the thing. Like the movie was working best when like the animatronics were being buddies and making like laying down on the ground, and I don't know. So I'm curious to see what energy she brings to the second one. The second one is written exclusively by Scott Cawthon, so we're going to see how he handles a solo project. And it's directed by her again, so we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for joining me. The next Why We Horror podcast that I'm going to be doing is for a Christmas movie called Silent Night, Deadly Night, which I have not seen since I was 13 years old. So I'm excited to revisit, especially since there's a remake coming out mid-December. So I'm going to try to have that podcast up sometime around the release of that movie. Thanks, everybody, for joining me, and let me know what you guys think of Five Nights at Freddy in the comment area down below, and send me your favorite MatPat vid. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.